Time for the Writer's Block, our weekly look at all things sports. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Jenny Carlson here in the studios of the Oklahoman, joined by Cedric Golden in the studios of the Austin American-Statesman. It's 2020, Ced.
I know. Who'd have thought that I would have made it through 2019? I'm just glad to be here on this side of the dirt, Jen.
We made it to 2020. We still don't have those flying cars and the Jetson stuff that, you know. That's still coming. Somebody out there needs to be working on that. It'll help me get ready faster in the morning, everybody. All right, we've got some sports to talk about. Always lots of football going on this time of year. We'll talk about national championship game and the college ranks. We'll talk about NFL playoffs. But let's start with the turnover in the NFL. A huge hire by the Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy is their guy after... Can you call, what was it, weird sort of what happened with Jason Garrett? He was not retained, but he wasn't exactly fired, then he was. That was kind of an ominous start, and then a quick turnaround to hire Mike McCarthy. How'd you view what happened down with the Dallas Cowboys, Cedric?
Well, it was something that had to be done. Jason Garrett had 9+ seasons to get it done, and they only played in 5 playoff games in 9 seasons. The Patriots usually play in 5 playoff games in 1 season. So if you're America's team and you're the most valuable franchise in sports, you've got to have a head coach that's going to at least get you in the conversation every year. And what we know about Mike McCarthy is he is a winner, Jen. Mm-hmm. He has won a Super Bowl. He's one of the best play callers in the league. And he's one of those guys that you know when he's running the show, at least peripherally, we know Jerry's running the show, but we know when he's the head coach that you're going to be more times than not, you're going to be in the playoffs and you're going to win a playoff game or two. So the Dallas Cowboys needed to take that next step. It kind of scared me when they were interviewing Marvin Lewis, who's never won a playoff game in 15 seasons as a head coach, but they were just skirting around the Rooney Rule there. They were never going to hire Marvin Lewis. So it's a good hire. Jerry said it's going to be we decisions, not me decisions. I chuckled at that because we know that Jerry's the boss and Jerry's going to be pushing all the buttons. But as far as game day, I think Mike McCarthy was the smart hire.
Yeah, and, I think, Jerry's never going to completely, disappear into the background, and we all know that. But I think when he's had coaches that he believes in and feels like are, leading and doing what they need to do, lots of times he definitely will be less of a front man for the Cowboys, put it that way. I don't think he's not pulling a Homer Simpson and disappearing into the trees, into the bushes. That's not going to happen. But I do think Mike McCarthy's track record, it speaks well to a good positive vibe moving forward. This is a guy who, spent over a decade in Green Bay, a storied franchise. He knows what that is all about, the expectations that are out there when you are coaching one of these preeminent franchises in the NFL. And, some people will say, hey, he only won 1 Super Bowl. Listen, the Dallas Cowboys they'd be over the moon if he would win a Super Bowl for them. And Mike McCarthy, 50 games over 500 in the NFL. Cedric, it's tough to win NFL games. It's tough to win that many more than you lose. Mike McCarthy has a really good track record. It went south at the end, did not end well with he and Aaron Rodgers, but for more than a decade, he was flying high in Green Bay. I think it speaks well to the kind of hire this is for the Dallas Cowboys.
I agree, and he could have had 2 Super Bowls if he hadn't blown it at Seattle in the championship game, and I believe it was 2014, if I'm not mistaken. The one big blip on his radar, when we talk about Pete Carroll, we talk about throwing it on the goal line instead of handing it to Marshawn Lynch. When I think of Mike McCarthy's biggest blips as a head coach, it's having the ball twice in the first quarter at the Seattle 1-yard line and electing to kick a field goal both times. You can't play scared in the playoffs. The great Jimmy Johnson always said, scared money don't win in the playoffs. So I think that he's probably learned from that lesson. They were clearly better than Seattle that day. They gave up a 19-7 lead with 3 minutes to go in that game and lost to Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. So if you tell that to the Dallas Cowboy fan, he'll go, the average Cowboy fan will say something like, What do you mean? He was in an NFC Championship game? Wow, that is a big deal. We haven't been in an NFC Championship game since 1995. That's 25 years ago. So the Cowboys needed an infusion of more talent at the very important position of head coach. They got it. Let's see if he can coexist with Jerry and Steven and maybe move a very talented roster, Jen, to the next level.
Yeah, I think the one thing that is not maybe a huge question mark, but I mentioned the fact that it went south with Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers at the end of his tenure in Green Bay. And maybe that's just bound to happen at some point with coaches and quarterbacks when they've been together that long. Maybe something eventually is going to come up. But, I think player management is such a huge deal in the NFL, managing the locker room, managing the egos, getting guys to do what they need to do when maybe they don't feel like they're getting enough playing time or enough respect or whatever the case may be. And obviously the Cowboys have some great individual talent, whether you're talking about Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, over on the defensive side, guys over there. So Mike McCarthy will need to manage that, but, he did it for a long time before it did go south. I think you got to feel good about his chances to handle it well and move that roster forward. And obviously he's going to come in with a proven track record. He's not a first-time coach. He's not a guy that, players will be wondering, now why is he my head coach now? I think that he'll come in with a level of respect in the locker room that should bode well, and we'll see if this talented roster starts to have the results on the field that it didn't before. The results were not akin to the kind of talent that the Cowboys had.